We would like to inform all of you, ladies and gentlemen, that Dr. R.S. Sharma has now joined the panel, and I'm going to be requesting President Nat Health and Executive Vice Chairperson Apollo Hospitals, Dr. Preetha Reddy ji, to please introduce him and invite him.
The current pandemic has revealed the importance of developing the inpatient capacities. Moreover, management of non-communicable diseases is equally critical as people with comorbidities are suffering more in the current crisis. Thus, expanding financial protection for health for all, including inpatient care with a strong focus on NCDs, is very important. And the launch and implementation of Ayushman Bharat, both pillars of the health and wellness centers and PMJAY, is our greatest step in advancing towards the target of 3.8 of the US, the Sustainable Development Goals, which talks of achieving universal health coverage, including financial risk protection, access to quality essential healthcare services, and access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines and vaccines for all. So this, just to share with you some of the statistics relating to the achievement which this program has made over the last 2.5 years that it has been in existence. So one is it has certainly addressed the affordability because we have provided 1.7 crore treatments worth more than 21,300 crores, and 59% of that has been tertiary and 53% spent at private hospitals. So one of the sort of essential pillars of Ayushman Bharat is that while the government hospitals are a part of it, more importantly, the private sector participation is also an important component of Ayushman Bharat. Now, we have also ensured equity because in this crisis of mass movement of poor workers, PMJ, through its portability of benefits, has served as a boon. Nearly half of the beneficiaries have been girls and women. We have enhanced access to because 24,565 plus public and private hospitals and healthcare facilities are empaneled under the scheme. Out of these, 45% are private hospitals. And interestingly, these 45% hospitals have provided 53% of the overall treatments. So you can see the participation of the private sector is quite enhanced compared to even the public sector hospitals. And of course, convergence, along with the empowering 50 crore citizens, PMJ has provided fulcrum and flexibility for the states to increase the coverage to other vulnerable groups. 19 states are already covering more population than that is covered under PMJ because they already have their own, schemes, healthcare schemes. Now, central schemes are also coming forward for converging on the NHA's IT platform. So we are actually talking, or we are, making convergence efforts with the CAPF, Central Armed Police Forces, the CGHS, and many other government schemes. And of course, we think that we have been able to improve the quality of care because we are constantly focused on improving the quality of care delivered at hospitals empaneled under Ayushman Bharat. We are developing various standard treatment workflows, hospital quality standards, and rating frameworks to ensure that beneficiary of Ayushman Bharat is given access to high quality secondary and tertiary healthcare. We are also, having these rating kind of programs, and we provide incentives to hospitals which can ensure better quality of care to our patients. And of course, we are exploring further avenues for private sector investment in healthcare. With the inception of Ayushman Bharat, we have galvanized a huge demand for healthcare. For meeting the demand, supply must keep up. NHA has been committed to leveraging the private sector to cater to increase in demand. Now, the next issue is, on the one hand, we have been able to improve the demand side pull has happened. We must also ensure that we have the supply side response to that. And we are working out on the schemes which basically are based on viability gap funding, where we can, ensure investment in the underserved areas. So that's one effort which we are making. And of course, riding on the objective of ensuring access, affordability, availability, and technology, we are poised for a transformation of public healthcare post-COVID. And the following things will, will increase that process. One is the Ayushman Bharat itself, and then of course we have the National Medical Commission, then we had National Digital Health Mission, and increasing the government spending. As you must have seen in this year's budget, we have had a very significant increase in the government spending on the health, and we are focusing on disease surveillance and control. And most important is the public-private partnership. Now, there are certain challenges, and those challenges have got to be met with. One is that we have a higher number of hospital, but a lower number of beds than the world, including even Asian, other Asian countries. And further, 70 to 80% of beds in India are concentrated in metro or tier one areas alone, limiting the access of care to the last mile. Additionally, COVID-19 has exposed the additional vulnerabilities in the current healthcare infrastructure, calling for an urgent upgrade of existing facilities. So I think one of the major challenges is that the rural areas are actually quite underserved. And there are many districts where you will not believe we don't even have a single private healthcare facility. Which is a little bit you can have an individual doctors providing care, but then larger facilities don't exist there. Another unfortunate part is because of the other facilities not being there, the doctors also do not want to go and stay in in those areas, which actually further exacerbate the problem of accessibility. So I think now we have the right time to truly focus on improving the healthcare setup in the tier 2, 3, and 4 facilities cities. One is the NHS collaboration with private sector providing a bulk of the services, initiatives for benchmarking of prices, setting standards for quality of care, and introducing incentives for higher quality, along with auditing the services provided, will ensure affordable quality healthcare accessible to all beneficiaries while setting standards in the industry through strategic purchasing. Similarly, we are using the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So what we are doing is that the data generated under ABPMJY, which is the world's largest government-sponsored health assurance scheme, this will help in predicting outbreaks of disease or studying transformation of health-seeking behavior or shift in the disease pattern in the regions or treatment protocols. And finally, we are doing a lot of digital innovation because National Digital Health Mission aims to create a national digital health ecosystem that connects various stakeholders such as doctors, hospitals, and other healthcare providers, pharmacies, insurance companies, and citizens in a seamless manner, significantly improving the efficacy, efficiency, effectiveness, transparency of health services delivery in the country. Now, we also have a lot of these, some of the digital artifacts which India has created in the past are going to be extremely useful in building that infrastructure. For example, we have created digital identity, which you mentioned in your introductory remarks, Aadhaar. Now that Aadhaar, 1.28 billion Indians have got Aadhaar. Almost everybody has got Aadhaar. Now that is a very non-repudiable, digitally verifiable identity system, which we are going to use to kind of ensure that people are able to authenticate themselves or unrepudiably give digital consent tokens. So these are some of the things which we have done. We have done a very versatile payment system. Imagine in January of 2021, the UPI, the Unified Payment Interface, clocked 4 billion transactions in 1 month itself, which is actually a record for any country, any system, anywhere in the world. So these are very, very scalable, ubiquitous, affordable, frugal kind of digital artifacts, and above all, the most robust systems which we have created, which are going to become very, very important building blocks of the national, digital health mission as we go along. And as I said, it's important that unless, and everybody will be able to leverage, because we consider Aadhaar, UPI, and other kinds of these digital infrastructures as digital public goods. They are available to everybody in the country. So for example, we have a facility called eSign, which is actually on-demand digital signatures. Now, doctors giving prescriptions will be able to digitally sign these prescriptions without, without using a paper, or without using even a dongle, which is required typically for digital signatures. We have a concept called on-demand digital signature. So I think these artifacts are going to play an extremely important role, and they are going to become the basic building blocks of the digital health infrastructure. So, for example, doctors will be able to e-sign prescriptions, reports, and e-claims, develop an online national presence, and practice digitally and treat patients remotely through telemedicine. Now, similarly, personal health records will further help doctors and hospitals to seamlessly access consent-based, and I talked about the digital consent artifact, digital records for patients' health info, and enable periodic updation of health records in a highly secure system. And hospitals and other facilities will get connected to the National Digital Health Ecosystem via the NDHM Health Facility Registry. And let me assure you that we are taking absolute care to ensure that all these digital, transactions, or the records, or the personal health records, electronic medical records, etc., they are all privacy preserving and security ensured, and all they should be, online, but at the same time digitally encrypted. So essentially, we are going to sort of ensure a completely digital ecosystem while preserving privacy of the, privacy of the information, and also security of the information. Telemedicine and health technology is also going to play an important part, given that the length and breadth of the country and the paucity of healthcare workers. Technology will play a big role in bridging the gaps and ensuring delivery of health services at the last mile. Similarly, we are going to employ innovative financing, techniques. Further, the COVID-19 pandemic also revealed gaps in traditional financing mechanisms, which were unable to sustain hospitals and innovators to continue their operations. Therefore, it will be helpful to explore innovative financing mechanisms to help create resilient health systems, like viability gap funding, which I spoke about, and modifying priority sector lending guidelines to boost healthcare infrastructure in tier 2 to 4 areas. You must have seen that the government is giving very, very high priority to the healthcare system. Actually, the PMJY is actually Prime Minister's flagship project. He takes personal interest in monitoring the progress of this project, and therefore I don't think there is any constraint which we as an authority face in implementing this program. Health system strengthening is a collaborative effort demanding participation from the entire ecosystem. In all, our commitment to the objective is unparalleled. Through PMJY, we want to empower the last mile beneficiary to ensure that affordable healthcare excellence becomes universal. So these are some of the thoughts I wanted to share with you. As I said in the beginning, I am a very, very new entrant into this sector, and I'll certainly be looking forward to the guidance and to the help and to the, collaborative efforts with the industry, because I'm of the completely of that view that unless we create an ecosystem of everybody, and also we create an incentive aligned system, it should not be lose for some and win for some. No, it should be a win-win for everybody in the ecosystem. Only then the system will work. Otherwise, there will always be people who will say, "Are you are sort of doing this at our cost." No, we have to include everybody. We have to, and fortunately, in the my previous job of TRAI, I have learned that it is always a better decision can be made if there is a consultation all around. So whatever the issue, when they come to us in the last 1 month, I have had a number of decision points, and I have always told my people that first we should consult the industry. So in the coming days, you will see a number of consultation papers coming out of the National Health Authority, which actually will raise pertinent issues and will take the inputs from the industry. And then we propose to have an open house discussion, whether virtually or physically. That depends on how the COVID-19 plays out. But that is what we will do. And as I said, technology is going to be the very important sort of a part of our strategy, because we believe that information and communication technology can solve many of India's hard problems, and certainly health is a very hard problem to solve, and we are going to use ICT. Thank you very much for giving a very patient hearing to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sharma. I think it's, you started off by saying that you're a novice in the healthcare space. But after hearing you painting a landscape of what the possibilities are, I think PMJ is in very good hands. And we're looking forward to, as an organization, Nat Health, working with you to see how can we, really give that last mile connectivity in the healthcare space. I think, access is still an issue, and affordability sometimes, and again, accountability. So the AAA of healthcare needs to be addressed, and we have to do it actually working together. So while saying that, we've seen that telemedicine during COVID has grown exponentially, where we were doing an average of, between a few thousands a day. Now it's gone up to beyond almost hitting 10,000 a day if we put all the consults together. So I think the data which is coming up from that itself is, extremely valuable. And you address the issue of data protection. Will that be going forward, be something which we will use for the betterment of health indices in the country? Is that part of your plans?
No, certainly, Preetaji, I think it's very important that we must distinguish between what is personally sensitive data and what is, a data which can be put to the social use, the society is used. And therefore, what we will certainly be looking at the issue of data from two perspectives. One is the private and personal data has got to be protected, but at the same time, the data generated and which is anonymized data, which is non-personal data, that should certainly be put to use. We also believe in, at least personally, I believe in data-driven decision making, which means that it should be the data which should guide us to the decisions rather than the anecdotal kind of stuff which we have been using thus far. So that's one part I can be very clear about. Second thing I think is that the data will also be put on our platform. We have a data.gov platform where the data is exposed, the anonymized data and the kind of data relating to the statistics, etc., is exposed to public and researchers, which can do a policy making or research papers. What is more important is that there are many regulatory gaps in some of these areas. For example, telemedicine is an area which requires probably a little more clarity in terms of what can be done and what cannot be done. And therefore, I think that also that regulatory ambiguity in some sense, or at least the clarity has got to be achieved. And we will be working to ensure that things become very smooth rather than becoming vague, and then you are always afraid whether you are doing the right thing or not. So I hope that answers your concern.
I think, one of the issues again and questions from the group here is that PMJ, everybody really wanted to deliver on that healthcare promise. But there were thoughts about, just the costs and the pricing and things like that. And then we spoke about innovative models of funding, and you spoke about viability gap funding. Can all this come together for a more pragmatic pricing policy? Because I think that seems to be, where there is a gap, and the private sector can actually do so much more if there was if there was really a realistic way to deal with it. So what are your thoughts on that, sir?
No, absolutely. I think the policy relating to pricing has got to be pragmatic, and I'll certainly be looking into the issue as to where we require improvements and where the pricing is all right, where the pricing will require sort of improvements. But let me also say that price is after all a function of volume also. If the volumes go up, then even certain things become viable or become what is called uh, you know doable in situations. So I think that also the private sector has got to accept it, because it's a both ways situation. While pricing is important, and I'm not saying that you should suffer a loss, but at the same time, I'm also making a point that once you start sort of becoming a partner in this, and once the prices are realistic, I'm not saying heavily profitable and heavily negative, no, but if they are realistic, then the footfalls and the kind of people who will come down, and who will there it will become much better. And our experience, we are also having some issues. We are doing a study as to how Ayushman Bharat is doing, and many times we find that the hospitals at many levels, they would rather like the fellow to pay from his own pocket rather than paying from the Ayushman Bharat part, because they feel that if I charge the person at the prevailing rates, then I'll get better rates. Ayushman Bharat rates are not workable. So there are some other issues. We certainly will have to tackle this problem of cost, price of the treatments. But we should also remember that the volumes grow up, then probably the same thing can become affordable from a perspective of the service providers.
Thank you, Sharma ji. I just want to assure you that from the private sector, we're totally with you on this journey, and we're really looking forward to more than multiple interactions, actually achieving things together. So thank you for your time. We truly appreciate it. And what we've heard and learned, both about the digital landscape, your thought process, and how to scale up to give access to more people in the country, has been truly enriching. And we look forward to having you and seeing you more often on the Nat Health platform. Thank you and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much for having me on this platform. Thank you. Take